Hey man, let's start with the uncomfortable truth. No one wants to say out loud, women don't fall for kindness alone. They don't obsess over the man who gives them the world on a silver platter, showers them with compliments, and bends his spine backward to win her heart. No, what makes her obsess, what buries a man in her thoughts, morning to night, is a singular moment of powerful masculine presence that breaks her pattern. A moment where she sees something in you that disrupts the emotional noise in her mind. When you do this one thing, something most men are too afraid to do, she won't just remember you, she'll chase you. And I'm not talking about manipulation, I'm talking about triggering the one emotion most women rarely feel from a man anymore. Deep, masculine unpredictability, wrapped in control. The thing most men don't understand is that attraction isn't created through safety alone. It's born in the tension between safety and mystery. Women crave to feel something beyond logic, something primal, and the way you give her that is not by sending another good morning text. It's not by opening her car door or by remembering her coffee order. That's maintenance. But obsession? That's born in a moment where you pull away just when she expects you to lean in. It's when you withhold your emotional availability, not out of cruelty, but out of a grounded understanding that your time and energy are sacred, that you are not a man to be consumed on demand, that she must earn access to your softness. When you show her that, she doesn't forget. Point sample for Ronki. Won't your hugs fall down pava, they'll just trap a fall about someone. But that's not what makes her stare at her phone for hours wondering why you haven't messaged. That's not what has her pacing in her bedroom, texting her friends, asking why hasn't he called. What does that? It's when she realizes that she doesn't have your full attention, that she can't predict your next move, that she doesn't own your emotions. The second you show her you can withhold, that your world doesn't revolve around hers, that's when her instincts light up. That's when you go from a nice guy to the guy she can't stop thinking about. You need to understand something about how obsession forms in the female mind. It's not through words. It's not through pleading, proving, or pouring your heart out. It's through contrast. The contrast between what she's used to, validation, flattery, attention, and the void you create when you don't follow the script. When you stop chasing, when you respond slowly, not to punish her, but because your time is full, because you're building, you're focused, you're not ignoring her out of spite, you're simply not obsessed. And that absence of obsession on your part, that's what creates hers. Because nothing makes a woman more curious than a man who should want her and doesn't act like it. Now let's get real. Most guys can't pull this off. Why? Because they're addicted to the response. They're glued to their phones. They feel powerful only when they're being validated. So when she doesn't text back, they panic. They double text. They break their own boundaries. And in doing so, they kill the mystery. They reveal their hand too early. And once she knows she has you emotionally, game over. That's why this act of not reacting is so potent. When she expects a text and it doesn't come. When she posts something for you and you don't bite. When she disappears and you don't chase, you flip the dynamic. She starts chasing, she starts craving, and you did it without saying a word. This is the masculine energy she's starving for. A man who does not fold. A man who can sit with the discomfort of not knowing and still choose his frame. She doesn't want a boy who chases dopamine. She wants a man who chooses purpose. And when you live like that, not perform it, but live it, she feels something she rarely feels. Trust. Not because you give her control, but because you've shown you have control of yourself, of your time, of your emotions. She may not consciously understand it, but she feels it. And when she feels it, that's when she starts orbiting. That's when she starts changing her behavior, just to see if she can affect yours. Women test you, not because they're evil or manipulative, but because on some level, they need to know your emotional strength. Can you hold steady when she pulls away? Can you resist the urge to please her when she's moody? Can you ignore the games and stay focused on your mission? The man who passes those tests, the man who doesn't flinch, that's the man she obsesses over, because he's rare. He's not performing masculinity, he's embodying it. He doesn't need her validation, and because of that, she can't stop trying to earn it. There'll come a moment when she tries to break your composure. Maybe she ghosts you, maybe she flirts with other men in front of you, maybe she pretends not to care. And this moment, it's critical, because most guys, they react, they get jealous, they send that emotional paragraph, they fall into the trap. But the man who stands firm, who stays silent, who doesn't let her behavior dictate his, that man gets burned into her nervous system. because in that moment, she feels the masculine strength she's been craving, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that doesn't bend, and it drives her crazy in the best way possible. You need to understand that obsession isn't logical, it's emotional, and emotions are shaped by experiences, not explanations. So the more you explain yourself to her, the more you kill the tension, the more you try to convince her of your worth, the more you dissolve your mystery. But when you move in silence, when you let your actions speak, when you walk away from disrespect without a word, you become unforgettable, because you did what most men can't. You resisted the urge to prove yourself, and that, brother, is power. So what's the one thing you must do? Stop giving her what she hasn't earned. Stop offering emotional intimacy before she's invested. Stop initiating every conversation. Stop being so damn available. Let her feel your absence. Let her wonder where you went. Let her question if she ever really had you, because that is the moment the shift happens. That's when she goes from being entertained to being emotionally hooked. Not because you manipulated her, but because you finally gave her the one thing she secretly craves more than anything else, a man she has to work for. You see, when you stop giving her everything up front, you force her to confront herself. She's no longer reacting to your pursuit, she's reacting to your absence, and in that silence, she meets a version of you she didn't expect. The version who doesn't need her for validation. The version who doesn't crumble just because she's acting distant. That contrast? It shocks her system, because most men chase, most men panic, but not you. You let her sit with the tension. You let her stew in the discomfort of not knowing where she stands with you, and the longer you hold that line, the more her interest morphs into obsession. Not because you played a game, but because you stopped playing hers. The game changes the moment you realize that your energy is a currency, and the more you give it freely, the more it devalues. But when you treat your attention like gold, when you make it scarce, when you reserve it for those who show real effort, that's when women take notice. They watch how you move. They notice the shift. Suddenly she's thinking twice before ignoring your text. Suddenly she's replaying your last interaction, wondering if she said something wrong. You flipped the script by flipping the value. She was the prize. Now she realizes you were the gift. And the moment she understands that, she will obsess. Most men want her attention, but the man who gets her obsession is the one who can walk away from her attention completely. You see, women are used to being chased. They're used to emotional availability. They're used to being the center of gravity. But when a man refuses to orbit around her, when he becomes his own sun, his own center, his own source, that is when her axis begins to tilt. That's when her emotions spiral. Because obsession is born from imbalance. Not toxic imbalance, but emotional mystery. She can't quite figure you out. You gave her a taste, then pulled back. Now she's starving for more. Ronso, you ever notice how the moment you stop caring, they start chasing? That's not an accident, that's nature. Because the feminine craves the masculine, that leads not with control, but with composure. When you stop texting her first, when you stop explaining your silence, when you stop checking in, her world changes. You're not being rude, you're reclaiming your position. And the irony is, the less you reach out, the more she does. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because your value just went up. Scarcity creates demand. And in a world where every man is too available, your detachment is a diamond. There's a certain silence that speaks louder than words. It's not ghosting, it's not punishment, it's masculine poise. When you go quiet, it forces her to feel, not think, feel. She starts questioning why you pulled back. She starts revisiting old conversations. She starts noticing every detail about you that she overlooked when you were too available. That silence creates a vacuum, and nature hates a vacuum. So she tries to fill it. She texts, she posts, she asks mutual friends, anything to pull you back into orbit. But you stay focused. You stay grounded. You don't budge. And that right there is what seals the obsession. Here's what separates the man she forgets from the man she obsesses over. Emotional contrast. The guy she forgets was always there, always available, always predictable. But the guy she obsesses over, he was unexpected. He flipped between softness and steel. He showed interest, then discipline. He gave her access, then stepped back. And that roller coaster of tension and release created emotional imprints. She didn't just interact with him, she experienced him, and experiences are what the feminine clings to. It's not about being cold, it's about being controlled. That's the difference between confusion and compulsion. At some point she'll test your detachment, she'll breadcrumb, she'll send a random hey. She'll post a story aimed directly at you. She wants to see if the spell still works. And this is where most men fail. They bite, they rush back in, they validate, and just like that, the obsession dies, because she realizes she still has control. But the man who sees the trap, who acknowledges the bait, but doesn't take it, he grows in her mind, he becomes larger than life, a myth, a mystery, and mystery is what feeds obsession, because if she can't decode you, she has to chase you. You don't win a woman's mind by begging for her heart, you win it by mastering yourself, because self-mastery is rare. Most men are slaves to emotion, slaves to desire, slaves to her validation, but the man who can delay gratification, who can hold the line, who can stay silent in the face of provocation, that man becomes unforgettable. She can't replace that. She can find hotter, she can find richer, but she can't find a man who has the nerve to walk away and mean it. And that, my brother, is your edge. Not what you say, but what you refuse to say. Wrong is eventually, she will break the silence. She'll send the I miss you, she'll like an old photo, she'll comment something cryptic, not because she's sure you'll respond, but because she hopes you will. That's when you'll know it worked. She's thinking about you, obsessing over the what if, and what you do next determines everything. If you break and go back too soon, you reset the cycle. But if you hold, if you wait, if you continue living, thriving, building, you give her the ultimate experience, yearning. And when a woman yearns, she bonds, not to your words, but to your presence, to your discipline. So remember this, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be the richest, tallest, or most handsome. You just need to do one thing, create that emotional imprint by being the man who doesn't need her. Show her that you can withhold, that your emotions are not on tap, that you don't fall for games. And when you do that once, it creates a ripple in her mind that never leaves. She'll obsess not because you tricked her, but because you woke something up in her that few men ever touch. Respect. Respect for a man who doesn't chase love, but lets love chase him. Let me break this down. Her obsession won't happen because you text her more. It'll happen because you text less. Because when you deliberately withhold, you create a space where she starts filling in the blanks. She imagines what you're doing, who you're with, how your life has shifted, and in that imagination, she's chasing feelings, memories, tension, attraction. That internal dialogue becomes louder than any words you could send. So the real power move isn't in flooding her inbox, it's in leaving it silent and letting her mind fill it in on your behalf. That's where real obsession begins. Run through woes. This isn't about playing games, it's about aligning with how women emotionally operate. They crave intensity, they crave contrast, they crave a dance between closeness and distance. And when you're the man who masters that rhythm, when you show her enough closeness to spark warmth, then pull back to create tension, she doesn't just stay interested, she becomes enthralled. She's waiting for the next step, the next move. And since you control that rhythm, you control her emotional tempo. And when a woman's emotions follow your lead, that's not just attraction, it's all in devotion. But understand this, closeness must be earned. It can't be given away for free. That one moment, you know, the one where you lean in, show your depth, reveal your value, and then pull away. That's when she thinks for the first time, he's not like anyone else. It's brief, but seismic. It's the moment she feels your masculine authority, without dominance, without fear. And in that moment, the connection shifts. Suddenly she's not waiting for you to chase, she's craving you to stay. And that craving stays long after the moment is over. So many guys collapse in the seconds after that moment. They think she's interested, this is my chance. And they fill the void with clingy messages, selfies, emotional statements. But that's the death of obsession. That's when promise becomes pressure, when tension becomes suffocation. She doesn't want to be your project. She wants to be chosen. She wants you to see her worth without needing her validation. That's the next level. You pause, you step back, you let the idea of intimacy linger as an unresolved tension. And that tension, that tiny moment of withheld availability, that's the seed of obsession. Here's a truth most men miss. When you withhold after closeness, you teach her emotional discipline. You show her that your love isn't easy to access, and therefore it's worth the fight. Because women won't invest in a man who invests too soon. They don't trust him, they don't value what costs nothing. But when you make her work for your attention without being cruel, but without giving it away, she sees alternative value in how you care. She'll remember how you made her feel before withdrawing, and crave it. That craving becomes an emotional pull she can't resist, and she'll seek you out again and again. Now, Understand, this isn't about punishing her or playing awkward mind games. You're not trying to blackmail her affection. You're teaching her standards. Standards that you live by first, before imposing on anyone. When she sees that you don't cross your own boundaries, she respects you. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. And once respect forms the basis of attraction, obsession naturally follows. Because nothing is more intoxicating than the sense that someone stands for something and that you stood for something before you stood for her. Her mind will try to rationalize it at first. She'll think she misunderstood. She'll wonder if you're busy or upset. She'll replay your text to find the trigger. And that mental replay, it anchors her to you. Because humans fixate on unresolved conflict. And when her emotional brain goes over that replay loop, it's not a rational analysis, it's a bonding mechanism. You triggered her need to resolve tension, and to resolve it, she'll come back. Not just to have the conversation, but to feel the energy she remembers, and that energy is addictive. Here's where many men backslide. They reach out, brag that they missed her too, and everything goes back to normal. But obsession thrives in unresolved tension. It thrives in the question hanging in the air. So when she bites, when she responds to your step back, don't give her closure immediately. Don't text a full explanation. You might say good to hear from you or a calm 5-word reply that keeps things open-ended. You acknowledge her, but you don't step back onto her emotional playing field. You remain the one who sets the emotional beat, and that keeps her chasing. The real test comes if she doubles down, if she sends multiple messages, apologies, or tries to debate why you pulled back. This is where you lead with frame, not emotion. You say something like, I pulled back because I realized my energy deserves more than half-hearted responses. Strong, calm, unflinching. Not defensive, but authentic authority. That is the kind of statement that doesn't accuse her. It just stands, and the woman who respects that will begin to see you differently. She'll see that your boundaries aren't fragile, they're functional, and she'll begin to honor them consciously because she knows you expect it. But beware, obsession isn't your goal. The goal is connection built on respect and challenge. Obsession is a sign she's moved emotionally, but the real prize is when she chooses your rules, not out of fear, but out of appreciation. When she sees your withdrawal and steps forward, not out of desperation, but out of alignment. That's the moment you've won. Not because you manipulated her, but because you showed what you're willing to defend. Her obsession resonates because she sensed that depth, that clarity, that grounded strength. And once she feels that, she doesn't just chase you, lead together. Lots itother. This is where everything flips. See, most guys operate on emotional autopilot, constantly adjusting themselves to keep a woman comfortable. They sense a change in her tone and they flinch. She pulls back slightly and they panic. But when you do the opposite, when you remain centered, unaffected, and grounded even in the face of her hot and cold energy, she starts to feel something she doesn't even have a name for: reverence. She won't say it. She might even deny it. But inside, she starts looking at you differently. There's something unshakable about you now. Something that makes her nervous, intrigued, and excited all at once. You've become the one variable in her life she can't decode, and that is magnetic. The moment you show her that you will not be emotionally rattled by her withdrawal, her silence, or her games, that's the moment she feels your power. And women don't forget power, not real power. Not the kind that doesn't need to scream, cry, or explain itself. The kind that just is, quiet, calm, assertive. That's what she'll crave long after the attention fades. That's what she'll obsess over when the other guys are still sending good morning texts hoping she notices them. Cora, know what truly burns into a woman's memory? It's not the gifts, it's not the flattery, it's not even the sex, it's the way you made her feel when you didn't need her. That's the paradox that most men can't grasp. The more you need her, the less she values you. But the moment she senses that your world is full with or without her, it ignites something primal, because you're no longer operating like a boy needing approval. You've become a man with a mission, a man who's self-fed, self-driven, and self-validated. That man, you becomes unforgettable. She might go weeks without speaking to you. She might explore other options, but late at night, when her mind wanders back to the man who wasn't afraid to walk away, who didn't collapse when she left, who didn't chase her like the rest, that's when the obsession starts. Not because of what you gave her, but because of what you took away. The illusion of control. You shattered her narrative that she could toy with you and still own your loyalty. That's what gets stuck in her mind. Not the flowers, not the poems, the silence, the cold detachment, the unbreakable presence of a man who knew his worth and never had to beg her to see it. Ron says the reason she tests you It's not because she's evil, it's because women are biologically wired to seek emotional security through strength, not the strength of muscles or words, but the strength of frame, of energy, of detachment. She wants to feel like the man she's around can weather her storm without flinching. And every time you react to her emotions, every time you reach out too soon, every time you try to fix what she hasn't even asked you to fix, you fail that test. But the one time you don't, the one time you do absolutely nothing when she pulls away, it hits her differently. She expected weakness. She expected emotional collapse. She expected to find you broken behind the mask of masculinity. But what she sees instead is a man who remained whole, completely untouched by her chaos. And that shakes her, because now you're not just another man. You're the one who didn't bend. You're the one who didn't reach. You're the one who didn't react. And that memory, it doesn't fade. It burns. It lingers. It loops in her head every time she meets someone new and compares him to the one who walked away and meant it. So what's the one thing you do that makes her obsess over you for life? You stop being emotionally available for free. You put a price on your attention, not in arrogance, not in cruelty, but in quiet confidence. You teach her that your time is sacred, your energy is sacred, your space is sacred, and just because you once gave her access to all of it doesn't mean she's entitled to it now. You set a boundary that speaks louder than any speech you could give. And here's the key, you enforce that boundary with silence, not with threats, not with explanations, not with conditions, just distance, just discipline. That silence will echo louder than any message. She'll replay it. She'll try to fill the void. She'll wonder why the man who once responded instantly now doesn't even flinch. And that absence, that space, it forces her to confront something most women never truly face in real time, the value of a man who no longer needs her. She'll obsess, not because you're mean, but because you've become a mirror, one that reflects back to her everything she lost the moment she took your presence for granted. And the most insane part of it all, the moment you step into this energy, it becomes permanent. You can't fake this. You can't pretend to be detached while secretly craving her validation. She'll sniff that out like blood in the water. But when the detachment is real, when you've truly accepted that her absence doesn't define your value and her presence is a bonus, not a necessity, that's when the shift happens. You'll see it in how she texts you, less flippant, more thoughtful. You'll see it in her tone, in her body language. She won't be as quick to challenge you. She won't be as willing to push your buttons, because something in her will finally register. This man isn't like the others. He doesn't bend. He doesn't beg. He doesn't perform. He exists with or without her. And that is when obsession begins. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally stopped trying at all. Now here's the catch that nobody talks about. Once you master this, once your silence becomes louder than any speech, you'll start seeing a pattern in women's behavior. They don't come back all at once. It's subtle, it's indirect. It might start with a like on an old photo, a hey stranger text, or a story reaction that seems random but is very intentional. She's testing the waters. She's trying to see if the man you were, the one who pulled back, who didn't flinch, is still there. Don't break now. Don't let that first breadcrumb convince you she's changed. You don't reward vague gestures with full presence. You stay in frame. You let her do more and more, because obsession isn't measured by what she says, it's measured by what she does to try to re-enter your orbit. The longer she has to work for it, the more invested she becomes. The more you hold your standard, the more she lowers her defenses. You're not just a man to her now, you're the standard, the mystery, the one who changed the game. And trust me, when you become the standard, you don't chase, you choose. There's a twisted irony in all of this, man. The more you try to convince her to stay, the faster she runs. But the moment you step back, the moment you truly let her go, that's when she can't stop thinking about you. Because now you've become the unfinished sentence, the unresolved chapter, the what if that keeps her up at night. Women don't obsess over men who gave them everything. They obsess over the man who gave them almost everything, and then walked away. Why? Because that almost is what haunts them. It's the emotional cliffhanger that triggers their deepest curiosity and regret. That's what lingers. Not your effort, not your explanations, just your absence and the value you wrapped in that silence. You became the one she had to earn, and every woman knows the ones she earned are the ones she never forgets. This is why most men never get obsessed over. They don't leave behind anything to obsess about. They're too transparent, too available, too predictable. A woman knows exactly what she's getting with them and exactly what she can do to manipulate the situation. But you're a mystery now, a contradiction. You were warm, but now you're cold. You were present, but now you're gone, and yet you did it all without malice. That's the key. Your detachment isn't revenge, it's evolution. It's self-respect. It's the quiet reminder that not every man will crawl back just because she snaps her fingers. That's what drives her crazy. That's what makes her look at you like you're made of something different, because you are. You became different when you stopped chasing love and started commanding it. There's nothing more addictive to a woman than a man she can't fully figure out. Not a man who's aloof or emotionally unavailable in a toxic way, but a man who's selective, who's clear about what he wants but doesn't throw himself at her feet to get it, who shows warmth without weakness, who opens the door but never begs to be let in. That's you now. You're not mean, you're not bitter, you're unavailable to low-effort women. That's what gets her, because every other guy bent to her beauty, her mood swings, her mind games, but you didn't even flinch, and that quiet composure becomes unforgettable. She might fight it, deny it, try to replace it, but eventually she'll look around and realize no one made her feel that alive. No one else made her work for it. And that man, she'll never stop watching, never stop wondering. So here's the final truth. You don't need to be richer, taller, funnier, or better looking than anyone else to make her obsess over you. You just need to be harder to forget. And that comes down to this. Give her something real, then take it away. Not as a game, but as a demonstration of your self-worth. Show her that you're capable of giving deeply, but never to someone who treats it carelessly. Then walk away. No drama, no second chances, just quiet, masculine resolve. That's what haunts her. That's what she replays in her mind. That's what makes her wonder how she let you go. Because once she sees that you meant it, that you truly moved on without resentment, she won't just regret it. She'll obsess. And the best part, you won't care. Because by then, you'll be far too focused on the life you're building without her.